Well, it happened again, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Actually, maybe he's not a nice guy. I don't know. I'm talking about one of the leaders of the right-wing group, Moms for Liberty, who we have now learned is a convicted sex offender in an incident involving a 14-year-old. Remember all of those anti-gay homophobes who went out of their way to make life miserable for LGBT people, and it turned out that they themselves were gay? This is not exactly that, but it is yet another version of the personal hypocrisy that we see with many of these so-called moral majority people. Moms for Liberty is a right-wing group with a number of different chapters. They claim to represent and defend the rights of moms and parents and morality and ethics and what is best for our kids. And we have now learned that one of these leaders, who's also, by the way, a Christian pastor, it may shock you or it may not shock you to know that, it turns out that he's a convicted sex offender. Let's take a look. Rolling Stone reporting. Right-wing Moms for Liberty organizer is a convicted sex offender. Phillip Fisher Jr., who does faith-based outreach, deeply spiritual man, abused a 14-year-old in 2011. The Philadelphia Inquirer now reports. Listen to this. This is a conservative parental rights group, chapters all over the country. They want to eradicate LGBTQ-related discussions in public schools under the belief that educators use it to groom children for sexual relationships. The group might want to look inward first. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported yesterday, Phillip Fisher Jr., he's a pastor, he's a Republican ward leader, and he is the faith coordinator bringing his spirituality to Moms for Liberty of Philadelphia, is a registered sex offender, convicted in 2012 for aggravated sexual abuse of a 14-year-old boy, with the documents saying Fisher, who was 25 at the time, and this is graphic stuff, engaged in oral and anal sex with the boy. This is who right-wingers say is going to be our North Star, our shining light for morality and raising children the right way and protecting them from knowing gay couples exist. And this is what the guy has in his personal background. Fisher pleaded guilty, said to the Inquirer the conviction was a, quote, railroad job by a PAC affiliated with Lyndon LaRouche, the culty former presidential candidate whose organization Fisher worked for at one point. He says, just like Trump, it's all a hit job. Quote, it was a political situation that happened between me and Lyndon LaRouche. It was a member of his camp that made the accusation. They pushed it through. This guy has now resigned. Fisher was the leader of Philadelphia's 42nd Ward until he resigned Friday after the chair of Philadelphia's Republican City Committee demanded he do so when they found out about this stuff. So listen, first of all, at this point, this stuff isn't shocking. It's not surprising. The people who claim everybody else is trying to corrupt our youth, I will keep them safe. It turns out they are the last people we want, quote, keeping our children safe. No, thank you. Now, in addition to that, there's a bunch of other layers of hypocrisy here. They are not new layers of hypocrisy. A so-called man of God who tells us he knows how God really wants us to live, sexually abused a 14-year-old. But we are supposed to say, this guy is the barometer of morality, and dangerous, what, Marxists, communists, LGBT people, whatever, are the people that we're supposed to be afraid of. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe just as importantly here is the reality that a lot of these so-called parental rights groups in general are the last groups that we actually want making any decisions about what our children will be taught, the environments in which our children will be taught these things. And, obviously they're not all child sex offenders. No, I don't know of anyone making that allegation. But the more important point here is, what about leaving the decisions about education to the professional educators, to the actual experts in that matter. And we've talked before about how there's a double standard. In general, if you say, hey, I want to figure out, I don't know, how to launch a rocket into space. In general, right-wingers will accept the authority and expertise of the physicists and scientists and engineers who would understand orbital dynamics and combustible materials and fuel and all these different things. When it comes to something like education, and increasingly on medical stuff as well, as we saw during COVID, these very same right-wingers who do defer to expertise in many areas think that their opinions, their uninformed opinions, their opinions lacking any empirical basis, are just as valid as anybody else's. Listen, it's my kids. I know what's good for my kids just as well as the professional educators and teaching professionals, when in reality, that's just not the case. Now, there's a bunch of different reasons why parents or people in general might be quick to assume that when it comes to education, they know everything there is to know, but they would defer to experts in some of these other areas. But we have to realize that that's simply not the case. I now, as a parent, understand that there are things, even though it's my kid, even though I see her every day, I lack the knowledge and background to be an expert in many aspects that relate to my daughter. So I seek out expertise. Now, of course, I layer on top of that some of my personal experience, anecdotal observations from parents with their kids. There's no doubt that you bring your personal experience, but these folks are completely divorced from that reality. And they want to determine the curriculum. They want to determine the medical realities of what's best for their kids in school and all of these different things. And then even without the hypocrisy, that's bad enough. Then you figure out, oh, the guy wanting to keep our kids safe is a convicted sex offender. You add that personal hypocrisy and they become laughable jokes. Unfortunately, they have convinced millions of parents, I don't know about tens of millions, but certainly millions of parents throughout the pandemic and beyond, that they actually know better than the professionals. And so I don't know how we fix this problem. I don't know how we fix this issue where many parents have been bamboozled by groups like this. I don't know that the personal hypocrisy is what's going to do it. But there it is, Philadelphia Moms for Liberty leader, convicted child sex offender. Breaking bad habits can be really tough, but Fume is on a mission to make it a lot easier. Now, let me again remind everybody, our sponsor Fume is not a vape. I would not be advertising vapes. There's no nicotine. There's nothing electronic. Fume is just a small wooden cylinder that delivers tasty plant-flavored air. That's all it is, okay? First of all, people love the flavor, bunch of flavors, crisp mint, maple pepper, orange, vanilla, raspberry, lemon. Okay. There's the physicality of the device. It fits in your pocket. You carry it around. It gives you something to hold up to your mouth. So if you're breaking a bad habit, the hand-to-mouth piece of it is a big deal. Your hands want something to do. This gives you that. It also has an adjustable airflow dial and a magnetic end cap, which you can just fidget with when it's away in your pocket, which is also useful for some people who are trying to break these habits. Just go and read the reviews online. Fume has transformed bad habits for thousands of people. It's a great alternative for the hand-to-mouth habit. Start the holidays off right with a good habit. Go to tryfume.com/Pacman to get the Journey Pack today, which comes with the device and several flavors to try. You'll get 20% off all the way until December 1st when you use the code Pacman. The link is down below.